Hello everyone and welcome back to my Bold and Beautiful 29 YouTube channel. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the CEO's office, Brooke revealed Hope and Carter's plan to Ridge. Still, the Forrester Creacionisco CEO was in complete denial. He couldn't sound a world where his Carter would betray him like this. It sluggishly actualized on him that Hope and Carter were involved. And he flashed back Carter had advised him about the consequences of firing Hope and barring Hope for the future. Meanwhile, Hope and Carter felt safe in the knowledge that nothing new about their plan, so they could decide to do whatever they wanted. They didn't inescapably have to go through with it. But this was the only way to get the company back on track, to put the dysfunction behind them. Hope told Carter he could be the one to transfigure the company. Ridge started to accept what Brooke eavesdropped. He realized that Brooke had come straight to him and that Hope and Carter didn't know Brooke had eavesdropped them. He eventually accepted that Carter did this to him. Hope let Carter know that she felt safe and defended with him. No man had ever made her feel this way ahead. As Hope and Carter made love in Hope's home, we also saw Ridge looking worried and allowing about his coming moves in his office. Elektra and Ivy talked about the reproach that Elektra faced at home. It was the reason why she wanted to get out of Dodge, and she ended up moving to Los Angeles with her aunt. Someone had taken prints of her and, using deepfake technology, made them NSFW. It was an inconceivable violation, and she still didn't know who the malefactor was. Elektra bothered that this reproach would follow her to LA. She wondered whether the hype she got from the jewelry line would start at each over again. Plus, she didn't want it to onus what she had with Will. Elektra indeed showed Ivy the original and the deepfake interpretation. She had no way tried to look at the prints when the reproach firstly happened. But she promised Elektra she wouldn't let anything destroy Elektra's new life. Meanwhile, at Il Giardino, Remy talked Deacon into hiring him at the eatery. He told him Deacon he was secure, he was a hard worker, and that he wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. They struck a deal. Remy would work at Il Giardino on a trial base for room and board. At Hope's cabin, she and Carter again talked about the terrain at Forrester and how it demanded to change. They agreed that everybody merited a voice and that the Forrester versus Logan contest demanded to end. Of course, they also bandied whether or not to go through with their plan. After all, what they were doing would beget major damage, especially to Carter's fellowship with Ridge. Over at Forrester, Ridge was still in shock, but he also planned his coming move. Brooke tried to minimize Hope's part in this, but Ridge didn't let her. He knew this was Hope and Carter's doing. He didn't know which bone. Told the other to do this, but they were in on it together. And as much as Ridge wanted to defy his stylish friend right now, there was commodity he to do first. He brought in Justin, who's working at an LA law establishment. He demanded Justin to go over the LLC document because he couldn't use his in-house counsel since it was Carter who betrayed him. Justin verified that Carter was trying to pull a fast bone. But the attorney decided he wanted further time to see if there was commodity they could do to fight it. After he left, Brooke again tried to minimize Hope's part, but Ridge wasn't having it. Rather, H took the coming logical step. He texted Carter and told him he demanded to see him. At Hope's place, Carter got the textbook about meeting up with Ridge. For a nanosecond, Hope and Carter allowed that this might be a positive thing. Perhaps Ridge changed his mind and would reinstate Hope and HFTF. Also, give Carter's luxury brand ideas a shot. Carter soon set about that wasn't the case. Ridge brazened him, saying he knew what Carter was over to with the papers and the LLC hand. He couldn't believe his stylish friend would betray him and the family who accepted him. And he did this all for Hope. Ridge criticized Carter, but he put much of this achievement idea on Hope. After all, the Forrester versus Logan stuff sounded like her, not like Carter. Meanwhile, Brooke and Hope had their own battle. Brooke told her son that she knew. She knew not only why Ridge wanted to talk to Carter, but she knew what Hope and Carter were doing with the duty documents. Hope couldn't believe Ridge knew about the LLC contract and their plan. and she bothered about Carter being blindsided. Ridge just couldn't get over the fact that Carter did all of this because Steffi was mean to his little gal. And he derived that Hope was the reason they were each in this mess. She did this, he said. Still, he also conveyed he wanted to give Carter another chance. But that he demanded to get out of this poisonous relationship he was in. Carter asked Ridge if he wanted him to break up with Hope. Remy and Electra reconnected at Il Giardino, while Ivy and Will talked back at the Forrester services. Remy admitted that he was in Los Angeles for a fresh launch, but also wanted to see her. He'd kept tabs on her and was happy she was doing so well. Will conceded that he wanted to know everything about Electra. He asked Ivy if there was commodity up with Electra's history. Ivy didn't say a word, but was happy that her bastard was then in Los Angeles. When Electra returned from lunch, she told them about the friend she had run into at the eatery. She assured Will he was just a friend but was glad to see him. Will Spencer's going to connect some dangerous blotches. We know Will's formerly been asking a lot of questions about Electra Forrester's history since he can tell she's handling from commodity. Will wants to be someone Electra can lean on and open up to. The fact that Electra's caching commodity concerns Will substantially because he doesn't want her to feel like she has to hide anything from him at all. It may take some work, but Will's presumably going to pry a concession out of Electra sooner or laterly. That concession may come formally. Electra starts explaining her connection to Remy Price. Electra has assured Will that Remy is just a friend, but he's going to be uneasy as their history unravels. Once Will and Electra's server turns out to be Remy at Il Giardino, that could prompt Electra to unmask further about her history and how Remy stepped up for her. This may ultimately lead to Electra coming clean about the deep fake print reproach and how indeed some of her musketeers allowed the prints were legal. Maybe Electra will suggest Remy was one of the many people who believed her and gave her support during that time. Of course, Will could eventually make a connection that Electra isn't making. It may dawn on Will that Remy himself could be behind the prints, especially since he followed Electra to LA and just seems shady overall. Electra may rush to Remy's defense if Will tries to offer any hints about that. Will might indeed keep his reservations to himself and go on the quest for evidence without Electra's knowledge. Since Remy scored the apartment upstairs at Il Giardino, perhaps the show gave him that for a reason. Will might decide to do some probing and break into Remy's place at some point. Will might search for substantiation that Remy was behind the print reproach and try to prove to Electra that Remy isn't similar awful Joe. Unfortunately, that could lead to Will getting fractured during the quest and put on full blast by Electra. Since Electra trusts Remy, she may not be pleased over Will acting like her old confidant is a villain, at least until B&B's ready to let Will be proven right. Our point to Remy's dangerous side coming out to play down the road, so stay tuned for updates on any disquieting news ahead. Will and Remy feel poised to come major rivals, so don't miss all the brewing conflict.